Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another presentation of the Super Formula B Series here in the iRacing Officials Top Split on a Saturday afternoon, this time during the holiday season. Give a big shout out, big thank you, simracingnation.com for helping make this possible, as well as the many donors who have helped fund these events throughout the last couple seasons, including this one here tonight. Gotta give a big shout out to Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you're searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by the Graham Crackers Racing Discord server where everybody's welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. Actively recruiting for both Super Formula 23 and NASCAR teams. Join today by using the link in the description below or the QR code that we will show here fairly shortly. Also, check out RaceReady 3D's link in the description down below. Now let's get to who we are. Logan, here on VSPEED. This time, roles reversed. Morgan Cook, your host today. Logan on the buttons, running that producer stational co-host here as well. You are watching VSPEED. Check us out at VSPEEDSim on X, VSPEEDSim.com. If you haven't, check us out there already. Well, Logan, we're here in Italy. Tell us a little bit about this racetrack.
The reins. We'll see if we can get this track map up on the screen. If I could find it.
Here. Right to the grid here. So we'll skip that altogether. We'll see plenty of this racetrack here today. But it is time to get to the grid and see where your favorite driver is going to start today. Lucas Hand will roll off from the pole position here. Dennis Branch alongside in the 2 will start in second. Third today, James Byrne in the 1. Alexandre Blanc starts in 4th. Fifth today, Rob Mandemaker in the 3. Dan Jang starts in 6th. 7th to Felipe Silva. I Am Keeman rolls off in 8th. In your top 10, Ludwig Ranson and Jared Akers.
In P11, it's Darcy Dupois next to Yaroslav Pushnechnikov. In 13th, Gerhard Rowitz next to Sam Winton in 14th. For 15th, Adam Merchant rolls off next to the 10 of Philip Lucas. In 17th, it's the 17 of Martin Reeves next to Alex Thake. In 19th, Archer Kazimirski next to Clive Whitaker.
21st here, Ruby Nikomata in the 20 machine. Sandro Cherlus starts 22nd. The final car on the grid is 23rd here. Mohit Reina in the 19, and that is your grid to start this top split event here today. Well, Logan, light should just about be out. Everyone's on the grid, save for one driver. Let's get this thing underway.
Looks like we're still waiting on Lucas Hand and our 17th position driver, Martin Reeves, to make the grid, and then we should be underway very shortly. But in the meantime, 25 laps on the board. Of course, that pit road speed limiter enabled. As lights are coming up, open setup, and local yellows only. It's about time to go green, Morgan.
And we are off. Looks like so far so good in the back of the field. We're unable to make it up through the hill, through the gears. This time 4 or 5 wide up into turn number 1. So far so good for the entirety of this field. And with the early advantage. Everyone's starting to single file out here at the front of the field. Missing a few of our normal names that we see here every week. Larson, Foster, Smeaton, top 3 championship points last year, not in this race. Who is going to rise to the occasion here this afternoon?
And looking to be off on a great start here. Already 0.4 of a second over James Byrne for P2, and then it's single filed out through the rest of the field. So, you know, we talked about it a little bit at the end of the show last week that it very well could be anybody's ball game coming into this one. As a lot of these drivers haven't made, you know, the top three here, but today we're going to have a whole new top three as to what we saw last week, Morgan.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see who's able to rise to the occasion, who's able to put a good effort out here today, as we have a great battle for the lead starting to percolate here for your front three.
His hand, James Byrne and Dennis Branch, your top three at the moment. It's staying right within that 0.8 of a second bracket here for the top three. Rob Mandemaker in P4, 1.2 seconds behind our race leader, followed up by Dan Yang and Felipe Silva.
Your top six or so have started to break away from the rest of the field. Yeah, Silva, big gap back to Ranzon, 2.5 seconds. That's one of your biggest gaps in the field so far. As we work through part of this racetrack. Have a look a little further back in the field, Logan. We have some great battles here. There's one right there. Oh, off in the dirt a little bit. Too wide up through this section, not somewhere you want to be. Look at this knot of cars, Logan.
It is a hornet's nest back here around that 16th position. Sam Winton, Gerhard Rowitz, Sandro Trillis, and Alex Thake making an overtake over the 21 machine. It is just battle on battle. Gerhard Rowitz actually picks up a meatball flag, so already early damage on the number 12 machine. He's going to have to take it back to the pits, get repaired before he can continue on.
Yeah, definitely an unfortunate break. These races are so short that a meatball flag, any trip to pit road is going to be detrimental to your ability to finish, really in any kind of position that you were wanting to finish in. So not what you want to see on lap number 3 here in Mugello.
Battle for 17th just now starting to settle out, single file again. So we were 2x2 there through a good portion of the track. Sandro Trillis, 21, makes way, and Alex Thake off the track into the sand. It's going to allow Ruby Nekamata to get by. Thake at risk of falling out of the top 20.
And that's one of the characteristics of this racetrack that I've noticed is how close the sand traps are to the edge of the racetrack. You only have about a car width to work with. If you push a little too hard, you'll find yourself off in that trap, and that is not at all where you want to be. Here's Rob Mandemaker in P4 having a great day, up 1 from where he started. Working through this section. If we remember last time we were here, we saw a number of drivers have what we like to call a speed wobble in that part of the racetrack and shoot right off the racetrack into the sand trap. Definitely a tough place to race. Making a pass for third, making it look easy on the OTS.
About 160 seconds remain on OTS for Rob Mandemaker after that pass of Dennis Branch for the top 3 position. Branch with a 26-second advantage in that category still. And of course, you know, the typical aspect that we see from these top contending drivers, their top 2 have only used about 9 and 8 seconds of their push to pass so far.
Yeah, saving it all for the very end so they can try and get that fast lap, secure that extra point that you get for getting the fast lap in this series, and be able to pull away from everybody else. Because if you're on OTS for the entire lap, it's very, very difficult for anybody to catch you. It's not going to be on raw pace. It's going to have to be something kind of fluky that happens, considering how much of a gap you've likely put yourself ahead of the rest of the field. Look a little further back in the field as we cycle throughout the grid here.
Kazimierski up 5 positions from where he started, so a good start for the 14 machine. Started P19, now up into the top 15, running 14th at the moment. Kazimierski looking to put together a nice afternoon here on this Saturday, Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you love to see. And he's ranked as the number 14 car, 14 ties iRating in this 4,100 and change split. So he's running exactly where iRacing predicts he would run in this one here, and it's good to see when you're able to run at the number on the side of your car or higher. Definitely is a good feeling, but when you're lower than that number, that's not really where you want to be.
Lucas Hand with the number 6 on the side of his car started P1 and has held on to P1 since the green flag drop. James Byrne has not let him get away very far by any means. Only a half second back, and again, a very minimal separation in the push-to-pass availability. So you can never estimate when James Byrne might start to utilize that and make that pass on Lucas Hand. It could be any given moment, Morgan.
For sure, and I'm really impressed with how close Byrne has been able to stick, only with about that half second away. Clearly, dirty air not impacting that car all that badly. And I expect that the setup is going to work kind of in that favor, where you're going to be able to burn the tires in the right way, where you build speed later in the run. But he's staying right there, and it's really impressive that it hasn't deterred him from being able to challenge for the lead.
You just said burn the tire. Is that a pun there, Mr. Cook?
Unintentionally, I would say it is.
A good one nonetheless, as we come screaming down the front stretch to start lap number 6 of the afternoon. 189 miles an hour down into turn 1 for James Byrne. For heavy on the brakes, utilizing that draft of Lucas Hand and keeping that gap right below that half-second mark. It's going to be a very important spot for Byrne to hold on to. You can't let that lead get extended too much further, or else you're going to fall out of that limited draft bubble these Super Formula cars do produce.
Yeah, you're going so fast in these cars, and they're so compact in the way that they punch a hole in the air that you really do have to be close to the driver in front of you, or else you do lose the ability to use a slipstream, which at a track like this is definitely going to be important on that long straightaway. We saw Amanda Maker able to use the slipstream and OTS to make a pass for third, which he is continuing to pull away from. 7/10 now is the gap from third back to fourth.
Dennis Branch not far behind by any means. Dan Yang holds on to a top 5 spot in the number 7 machine. That bright red that we've come to know and love week after week. Felipe Silva just behind, rolling in P6. Ludwig Ranson holding on to 7th at the moment. Alexandre Blanc, I.M. Keeman, and Darcy Dupois holding on to the last spots of the top 10.
A lot of drivers here just biding their time until the setup works its way to be a little bit faster. 7 laps into this one already. Most of the field separated by about a second apiece, so everyone's really running about the same pace. Just not quite able to make up the gap between any of these cars.
There's the remaining push to pass for our drivers as we've started lap 7 here. So Hand and Byrne both utilizing a little bit of it within the last few laps. And does have the availability to activate that push to pass again. Byrne has to wait about another 30 seconds before he can get on the button one more time. But these two are staying so close. 180 seconds and 186 seconds between the two. It kind of reflects there a little bit on the timing and scoring. Now Hand 0.7 of a second ahead of Byrne. There's about 6 seconds between them, so it's I would say that goes pretty well hand in hand. Just the difference on the track versus the difference on what is still available.
But look at that number drop beside Byrne's name. Started off just over 7/10. Now we're down to half a second and dropping. That's the slipstream and how important it is. That was 2/10 he gained just on that straightaway alone. Now throughout the rest of the lap, can he maintain to be able to do that same thing again? That's the difficult part, is going through all these corners with the less downforce on the nose to be able to make the kind of speed you need to keep up with your leader.
A wide angle shot here coming down the hill. Tight section here of Mugello. Very vital to keep that momentum going. Don't want to slow up the car too much, then you do lose a lot of ground, and it seems like that's where Lucas Hand is prevailing at the moment. I think a lot of ground made up there, but Byrne just a little bit faster on those straightaways.
I have to wonder if he's got a little bit different downforce package in that car, a little bit less drag so that it is able to go faster in a straight line, but maybe lose a little bit in the corners. Definitely possible here. Back to Silva running P6.
The push to pass activated as well.
170 miles an hour into this sweeping left-hander. Like I said earlier, very easy to lose the back end there. If you're not careful, so bump or two, get that thing sideways in a hurry.
Right at 187 miles an hour entry speed for Silva. Made up a little bit of ground there on Dan Yang as well. Cut into it about 0.2 of a second. So a nice run down the front stretch for the number 4.
And they say it a lot in short track racing. It's very similar in road course racing. You're not going to go up and catch that guy in one lap. You're going to have to get him inch by inch. And that's really what you have to do here, is just slowly but surely hit your apexes, hit your entrances, hit your exits, roll the speed through the center, get the good exits, and just be able to inch your way closer to the driver in front of you. And eventually, they'll make a mistake, and you'll be able to get around them. And that is, that's it in a T. You're not going to be able to go up there and erase that 1.2 second gap in a lap. You're going to have to work at it here over the course of this next 16 or so.
Sam Winton has been working on Pashneshnikov, cutting that lead that the 18 has down just a couple tenths of a second. Like you mentioned there, there's issues up front. The number 3 of Rob Mandemaker
spun off in the dirt. So we can get a replay on that.
Yeah, see if we can get a replay going. Keep an eye on that number 3.
That was running third.
Having a great run. Just got loose on corner exit. Off into the grass. Kept it off the wall, though. That's important. Almost backed the wing into it. It could have been a race-ending incident for the 3 of Mandemaker very, very easily. He still holds on to a top 10 spot. He'll be able to try to regain some of that positioning.
Absolutely. That's going to move Branch up to 3rd. Zhang to 4th. Silva up to 5th spot as Mandemaker falls back to the 10th position.
Ludwig Ranson having an excellent night as well, up 3 positions from 9th to 6th so far. Still looks like Archer Kazimierski, number 14, is the biggest mover so far in this race. 6 positions gained as he is up to the P13 spot. But right behind is Sandro Trillis, up 5 positions from 22nd to 17th.
Yeah, going for the biggest mover award if there was one to give out, certainly. Always feels good to pass cars. I mean, regardless if you're passing cars for 15th or if you're passing cars for 2nd, it's nice to be able to work your way forward throughout a field and know that you have more speed than where you qualified. It's just, there's something about it that just makes you, makes you more excited as a race car driver when you know things are moving in the right direction.
That's what everybody wants to do, you know, passing race cars is the most fun that you can have on the iRacing service. And, you know, winning races is great and good, but whatever you can do it in a fashion of gaining multiple positions, it becomes a aspect of bragging rights, even, to say, hey, I passed you from however many spots back and won the race. It's always a motivational portion of the racing that we see here on these Saturdays.
Yeah, definitely right about that. We'll see if Hand can go simply lovely here. Led all 11 laps so far from the pole. Probably also has the fast lap. I don't have that information up in front of me right now, but I'm imagining that it's probably one of the 2 drivers on your screen right there that have that fast lap.
They are nearly tied for the fastest lap of the race. Just 1/1000th of a second separating Hand and Byrne for that fast lap so far. Now, of course, we still have plenty of push to pass remaining. Hand down to 142 seconds and Byrne down to 176. So it does fall in favor of our P2 driver. But you could very easily see that best lap time get brought down into the 123s if they can find the rhythm that this track needs.
What I noticed as well is that Zhang was only 300 or 3,000ths off of the top two as well. And Branch was also in the same 10th of a second bracket. So those four drivers all running very similar pace, which is great, shaping up for the final few laps of this one, just about halfway here in Mugello.
Merchant back in the 12th position, starting to close up the gap to Jared Akers for P11. A little bit off the track surface there. Dipped the left side tires off into the sand. But has found a extraordinary pace as he is staying right up underneath the number 9, putting the pressure on as Akers is starting to challenge Darcy Dupois just up ahead for the top 10 position as well.
Yeah, this battle for 10th is going to become 3 cars here in just a moment. Continue on with this pace. But Akers kind of missed the apex a little bit. Got a better run off the corner. Merchant behind him. I feel like these three are all going to be accordion together here at the end of the straightaway.
At the top of the gear is Merchant diving down into turn 1. That's how you know you've got a great setup. You want to take that, that last gear, 6th gear, and run it all the way out at the very end of your straightaways. Very well set up car, it appears, at least on the gearing aspect for Adam Merchant. See if he can make up a couple more spots and maybe come away with the top 10. Cuts that corner just a little bit shallow. That's what you get when you're driving these cars as hard as you possibly can, trying to make up those positions. He's got it down to under 0.2 of a second and goes around the outside. He will get by Jared Akers this lap.
I'm not sure if Akers meant to give that spot up or if he had an issue off the corner. He went out of the way very quickly, slowed down. Might have just been good racecraft, getting out of the way. Could have also just been a slight inaccuracy and got a little bit loose. Regardless, position has changed hands and both drivers are still running here on the black stuff.
Checking back in with our leaders, Lucas Hand, 0.7 of a second away from James Byrne. And they've got a nice large margin from second back to third. Dennis Branch, 2.5 seconds behind James Byrne for P2. So no pressure being applied from our third place driver at the moment. Of course, that can always change in a split second if either one of these drivers make that mistake. Go off track just a little bit more than expected. A little wiggle coming out of the corner. It can very well slow you down.
So especially if they're able to catch up to each other and start battling, that's when you see the lap time start to drop significantly, because you have because this track has so many left to right S's that if you're side by side with someone, you're both going to lose a boatload of time trying to navigate those parts of the racetrack.
Just outside of the top 10, we've got a battle starting to form between a couple drivers. Jared Akers, Artur Kazimierski now trying to make the same type of move that we just saw Adam Merchant accomplish around the 9 of Akers. Philip Lucas not too far behind as well. Just 0.6 of a second behind Kazimierski. Looking to follow that line and gain some positions for himself in that 10 machine. Already up 2. Again, Kazimierski up 6, looking to make it 7.
Yeah, great run. Great run for him, gaining so many positions. And we're at the point of the race now, about a little past halfway, where you know what the car's got. It might be working itself into your favor in terms of how the tires are wearing and how the fuel is burning off and all of that. But you kind of know what you have here, and it's either going to be great or it's not, and you just have to manage it the rest of the way. Try and gain some spots, but at the very least, do not throw your race away because you've got to this point already. Don't make it worse if it hasn't been as good as you expected it to be.
Kazimierski nearly got to Jared Akers down into turn 1. Closed it up to 0.2 of a second. Akers will be able to drive away in the preceding corners here. Back up to 0.4 of a second ahead of Kazimierski, but Philip Lucas did not lose any of that ground that he just gained up. 0.8 of a second behind the 14, now just 0.5 of a second and holding.
is it's always interesting to see with open setups and even with fixed setups as well, how drivers and cars are better in different sections of racetracks. So we saw, Sector 2 might be beneficial to Philip Lucas, whereas Sector 1 better for the driver in front of him, Sector 3 for the driver behind him. And now you have this interesting accordion effect that is so dynamic because, you only get that one sector of the racetrack once per lap. You have to make sure that you capitalize on it and minimize the loss in the other sectors. The battle for the lead is also heating up here. We're under 0.4 of a second.
James Byrne making up that ground within a half second and still has an extreme advantage, over 30 seconds advantage over Lucas Hand on the push to pass. Now it's just going to come down to when do you use it? When is the optimal time to start gaining more of that ground? Do you want to use it in the sections that you know that you're better than the driver ahead of you, or do you want to use it in the sections that the driver ahead of you is better in to try to minimize that gap that they can extend? It's a tough call out here with such a technical track like Mugello.
Yeah, definitely right about that. One thing I would definitely be doing, though, is using it on that front straightaway to be able to try and make the slipstream even more powerful if you're Byrne in second. The rest of the racetrack, I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously you want to use it for the entire course, best as you can. Of course, you'll get there in the last couple of laps when you only have so much time remaining in the race. That's probably what I would do, is use it on the front stretch for sure, and then just hope that you have enough for the rest of the racetrack.
Be very interesting to see when James Byrne decides to use it. And, it's one of those things that you really just have to think about. You also want to keep in mind the driver ahead of you. When do they use it? Again, you want to minimize the gap that they can extend as best as possible while still holding on to that slight advantage that you currently have. That could make all the difference on the last 2 laps.
Yeah, definitely right. I mean, 10 seconds of OTS in the last couple of laps, when you're going to run it the whole time, that could be the difference between winning and losing this race, especially depending where you start using OTS. And don't look now, the leaders are catching up to some lap traffic as well. That could play a factor if you catch them in the wrong spot also. A little further back in the field, 15 machine.
4-car battle starting to form back here just outside of the top 10. It's getting closer and closer as we work our way around. While still holding on to that 12th spot, Kazimierski, Philip Lucas, Yaroslav Posnechnikov, all right here within striking distance. Just up the road, Alexander Blanc and I.M. Kieman, both of them starting to catch up to our number 6 driver, or P6 driver, Ludwig Ranson. It's interesting to see how these drivers have built up these setups for this race. It appears that we've got a lot more that have focused on the long run of this race, Morgan.
Yeah, I would expect that as well. I mean, there's going to be no breaks in the race, unlike a traditional oval race where you have cautions and all of that. Here, it's you drop the green flag, you drop the checkered flag with nothing else in between in terms of stoppages or changes or anything like that. So you're going to run 25 laps at a specific pace. You probably want to be able to get faster and faster when the fuel burns off and the tires start to come to optimal temperature and all of that. So building it for the long run, definitely a great idea. A lot of drivers tending towards that side of things.
Taking a look back at our leaders as they have gotten much closer to some of this lap traffic. Can't quite catch the number of who that is just ahead of them.
I think that's fake.
It would be the 23 of Alex Thake. Going to stay out on the outside, trying to use that draft as best as possible. Hand able to use the advantage, but James Byrne stays right behind Hand the whole way. He's going to close that gap up to 0.3 of a second as we dive down into turn 1.
This is about the closest that they've been to this part of the racetrack. I haven't been able to get a beat on where Byrne is better or where Hand is better, other than obviously the front stretch where the slipstream gives Byrne a big advantage, but they really seem to be fairly even throughout the entire course. It's just about half a tenth here, half a tenth there, kind of inching closer, as I mentioned earlier.
It's like Dubois and Lucas both battling for position there. I believe it settled back out with Dubois keeping position, or rather getting around Philip Lucas. Now into the 13th position for the 15, behind Kazimierski by about 7/10 of a second. Puts distance on Lucas, 8/10 of a second after completing that pass.
Yeah, a few battles starting to shape up here in the final 5 or so laps of this one. Only 2 drivers retired from the race so far as well. That's a great way to look at it. 21 under 23 still on the racetrack. Typically we see a little bit more carnage in some of these events. This one, pretty good in that regard.
A great showing from these drivers is I am Keeman starting to catch up to the 11, starting to put the pressure on. Ask for P7 would be this one. I mean, can't quite get there, but appears to get a great run out of the last corner. Just a little bit earlier on the brakes. It appears Keeman might be driving a little bit more timid, but Blanc making mistakes just up ahead. It's keeping Keeman very, very close.
Yeah, it's got to be nerve-wracking when you exit one of these corners and you get half your tire on the gravel and it starts to shake and starts to sputter because you've caught something that isn't asphalt or isn't the paint, either this green paint that we're on right now. That has got to be a nerve-wracking feeling, knowing if you push it even an inch more, you're probably going to go around. Keep makes a good amount of time for the center, but loses it all. And next up, we got a spin. Hand is around. Hand has spun for the lead. Well, that changes everything.
It absolutely does, as he's going to lose multiple positions. Hand now in the back half of the top 5. Get back here on the replay and see what happened to our previous leader. Looks like he just came off of that push to pass, and we saw it once before. That's exactly what happened to Amanda Maker. Just right there on the final corner, early on the throttle, rear end slides out from behind. Lucas Hand loses the lead and could have very well just handed over the win to James Byrne.
Yeah, not over yet. I don't think any of us would have anticipated the leader spinning in that part of the racetrack. Now we have Byrne with a 3.5 second advantage over Branch. Really nothing out the rear view. All he has to do is keep it on the tarmac for 5 more laps. He will claim a win here in Mugello.
What a way to go about it. You know, just the patience game paying off for James Byrne. He kept the pressure applied pretty well the entire race. We never saw Lucas Hand get too much of a lead, maybe up to about 8/10 of a second. It never crested that 1 second mark, I don't believe, Morgan.
No, I would agree with you there. And just having your car behind the driver in front of you and just always being there in the mirror, gaining here, losing there, just being dynamic and just being present can sometimes and fairly often, as we just saw, cause the leader to maybe overthink a little bit and make a mistake, push a little harder, try and accelerate a little faster, brake a little bit later, and of course these cars are so dialed in. Oh, driver way off the racetrack here. These cars are so dialed in.
Following.
Oh, wow.
So Ranson and Blanc both off track in the same corner. Ranson will actually pick up a meatball flag as well. Let's see what happened to these two here.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Oh, it was a battle between both of them down into turn 1. I think there's a little bit of contact made. More contact nearly. Oh, and big contact.
Oh.
Ranson did not like those moves being made and shoves it to the inside of Blanc, sending them both barreling into the sand.
I don't want to use the I word, but my goodness, that was that might get looked at post race. That was a tough one for sure. Yikes. Gap up front has not changed. Branch still 3.4 up. 3 laps to go. We got some F's in the chat for drivers going off the track late in this race.
All out sprint down the front stretch. Philip Lucas finally gets around Darcy Dupois. Archer Kazimierski up the way about a second and a half from these two. Kazimierski getting closer to Jared Akers. Remember, laps ago, Rob Mandemaker out of the top 3 fell back to the 10th position. He's worked his way back up 3 positions to the 7th spot. So not a bad recovery for the 3 machine. Ludwig Ranson still with that meatball flag. We'll have to get that repaired before finishing the race. Move up the road here to Kazimierski and Akers, both catching up to Ranson, giving room to both of these drivers. Back to the 11th spot. Akers to 9th, Kazimierski to a top 10.
How quickly things change. Talked 4 laps ago about how only 2 drivers were out of the race. Everyone else having a pretty solid and clean day today. That changed in a hurry. Obviously saw Hand go for his spin. Saw the issue there between those 2 cars. Yeah, who knows what is ahead around the corner here at any given corner in Mugello.
Only 2 to go for James Byrne. About a lap and a half realistically. And a lot of cushion. You think he risks it and tries to go for that fastest lap of the race? He already has that title with a 124.034. Still on the push to pass here. Looking to maybe break into that 123, and he would be the only driver in the field to get to that number.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I mean, obviously you want to get the fast lap, no question about that. I don't know if you push much harder than you have been, just because of how big of a lead you have. It's, over 4 seconds now, 4.2 and growing. I mean, clearly he's faster at this moment. I just don't see the reason to go all out and push very hard, because you don't want to throw the race win away either.
Absolutely not, but this time by white flag in the air for James Byrne. Mugello is coming to a close with a 4.4 second lead in favor of the 1 machine, and into the 123s he goes with a 123.510. He didn't just break into it, he blew past it.
Yeah, flexing some late muscle here. All he has to do, keep it on the racetrack. For the rest of this lap, Branch and Zhang aren't near each other either. So the top 3 looks fairly solidified. Silva about 4 seconds back of Zhang at the moment. Hand looks like he might round out the 5th position. First contested position 6th between Keeman and Mandemaker. But most of the drivers spread out across this field, but out of OTS for the 1. Used every last drop of it as this race comes to a close.
Absolutely, might as well. Gonna be happy with the first win of the season. Just a few more corners to go for James Byrne to claim the checkered flag at Mugello. Here it is, the final corner down the front straight. And James Byrne will be your race winner here for week number 2. Patience was key today, Morgan.
Yeah, he put pressure on Hand, forced the mistake, claimed the victory.
Follow some of the rest of the field as they cross the start-finish line. Couple battles still forming here. Not going to be just enough there for Kazimierski. Sneshnikov, though. Oh, couldn't quite get by Darcy Dupois. The rest of our field will come across that start-finish line. What a race it was.
Absolutely. Once every driver crosses the finish line, finish their race, get into your results. Interviews with your top three. What do you say, Logan?
I say that sounds like a great plan here, and it looks like most of the field has made their way around. It's our two non-finishers of the afternoon still haven't, so I think we are ready to see our final results. Take it away, Morgan.
Coming home with the win. It's going to be Byrne in the one. Ran second most of the day. Capitalized on the mistake. He will cross that line first with the fast lap. Congratulations to him. Branch in the second position. Jang finishes in the third spot. We'll have interviews with them in just a few minutes. Silva in P4 in the 4 machine. Hand falls back to 5th after leading for most of the race. Keeman in 6th. 7th to be Madamaker. 8th Merchant. Great run for him. Up 7 positions from where he started. Akers in 9th. Kazimirski gained 9, the biggest mover of the day, finishing in 10th.
Just outside of the top 10, Philip Lucas put on quite the show, up 5 positions as well. Darcy Dupois takes home P12. Yaroslav Pasneshnikov rolls off tonight in P13 with Sam Winton in the 22 taking home 14th. Ludwig Ranson with the late race incident falls back to 15th, but does finish with that meatball flag. Didn't lose as many positions as possible. In 16th, Sandro Chirillis in the 21 machine, the 16 of Clive Whitaker just behind, taking home 17th. Martin Reeves in the 17 takes home 18th with Ruby Nekamata in 19th. Last but not least, in the top 20, Alexander Blanc after the contact with Ludwig Ranson.
21st to be Thake, finishing 1 lap down, last driver running. Reyna 22 laps down after an incident, and Rowitz as well with a meatball flag finishes shotgun on the field, 23rd, 23 laps down.
Well, Morgan, it looks like our race winner is ready to have a word with us. What do you say we go ahead and pull him up here and see what the second winner of the season has to say to us?
Now let's catch up with James Byrne. James, Morgan and Logan up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, hello.
Well, welcome to Victory Lane here in Mugello. Started in the 3rd position, hung out in 2nd for most of the day, just continually kept the pressure on Luca's hand, and all of a sudden, it broke your way. Why don't you walk us through how your day went?
Yeah, sounds about right. Qualifying was okay. Obviously want to be first, but third is fine. And I was just thinking I'd just maintain where I was in the race. I thought it would be silly to try and pass Lucas earlier on, because then the guys behind would get closer. So I was just hoping to get a good opportunity at the end. And then I was about to pass him actually on that straight, and then he spun. And that was a bit of a scary moment because I wasn't exactly sure where he would go, but I just decided to stick with it. And yeah, then I just cruised to the win at the end.
Yeah, clearly you picked the right place to go. You got around him as that car was sliding and was able to drive away. And you've been the leader, you've been the driver behind. How difficult is it to have someone right in the rearview mirror like you were to Lucas for most of that race? How much pressure does that add to you as the leader?
Quite a bit, I think. I think Lucas, I mean, I can't really speak for him, but I think Lucas was concerned about me passing him every lap throughout the race when I wasn't, but I think he was pushing a bit to try and get away, even though I wasn't really going to fight him until the end. So yeah, it can be difficult, but it's also difficult to pass here, so it's tough for the car behind, thanks to the dirty air and such. But yeah, you're right. It is difficult to be the leader when the guy's right behind you.
Absolutely. Logan, you have any questions for James?
Well, I just we kind of talked about it during the broadcast, and you kept the pressure applied the entire time. Was the goal while riding behind Lucas Hand just to kind of pick up on the racing line and play the patience game and continue on? And obviously, it paid off for you. What was the strategy kind of call here for you, James?
Well, at the beginning of the race, I was just hoping to stay with him and see how it goes because in a race earlier in the week, he was able to get ahead of me and build about a 4 or 5 second gap. So I was just hoping to stay with him and see how it went. And then as the race went on, I saw that we were about even in pace. So I thought I'd just have to get creative at the end and nick the win. But yeah, I just try to take the race as it goes and just stay calm and react to events as they happen.
You did a fine job of it today. That is for
Thank you.
certain.
And thank you guys for broadcasting.
You bet. While we got you up here, who do you want to thank? Who do you want to shout out for what was a masterful job in patience here this afternoon?
I'd like to thank my dad for helping me out. He was watching along. Also, Gerhard, a teammate. And I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting and happy holidays.
Awesome. Thank you very much, James. That is your winner here, Mugello, today. Top split action, 4,100 and change strength of field. James Byrne is your winner.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we don't have anyone else lined up to chat with us, Logan.
Yeah.
Final thoughts and what was a fun one.
Seems like
Here in
that's
Italy.
about it. But yeah, it was absolutely a great race here. Not to, discredit it by any means. It's kind of what we come to expect around on these Saturdays. The strength of field a little bit lower today, but we were also missing our big name guys. It's a holiday weekend. You come to realize that family is indeed more important than sim racing, but we'll be looking to see them back on the track next week for certain.
Absolutely. What a fun one it was here today. Well, Logan, for everyone here at VSPEED who helps make this thing possible, definitely have to give a big shout out to all the donors who make this thing happen. If you want to continue to see these races, these Super Formula V Series top split events here on Saturday afternoons, the iRacing officials, make sure to check out the Patreon link in the description down below. Check out simracingnation.com as well. Join their Discord server, one of the better communities here on Discord for iRacing. Absolutely worth a look. And if you haven't already, check out the link in the description below for Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you're searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by their Discord server where everybody's welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. Actively recruiting for both Super Formula 23 and NASCAR teams. Join with that link in the description down below. Also check out Race Ready 3D's link down in the description below. Lots of good stuff down there, some partners and all that. Work with us here on VSPEED. But for everyone, speaking there of VSPEED, who makes this thing possible, Bradley, Adam, Eddie, Logan, all the other commentators and producers, big shout out today to Santa for stepping up and covering the production when I had technical issues just before the race started. So big thank you to him for being versatile and making this thing happen. Check out vspeedsim.com, at vspeedsim on X. But for Logan and everyone else here at VSPEED, I've been Morgan Cook. Have a great evening. See you next time, right here on VSPEED.